Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to wake up, not from the sleep you had last night. I'm talking about the kind of sleep that creeps into your soul, the kind that tells you to settle, to play small, to fit in. The kind of sleep that convinces you that this is just the way it is, that you're not enough, that it's too late, that you should be satisfied with what you've got. Well, guess what? That voice is lying to you. You were not born to live a life of quiet desperation. You were not designed to just survive. You were built to thrive, to rise, to unleash something so powerful, so bold, so unstoppable that the world has no choice but to take notice. I want you to hear this. Everything you've ever needed is already inside you. Let me say that again. Everything you've ever needed is already inside you. But here's the truth. Most people will live their whole lives without ever accessing it. Not because they can't, but because they don't know how, or worse, because they're scared of what will happen if they actually do. Because when you unleash your true power, your real power, it demands that you stop blaming. It demands that you stop waiting for someone to come save you. It demands that you step up, that you decide. See, life doesn't respond to your wants. It responds to your standards, the life you're living right now. It's not because of your dreams. It's because of what you've been willing to tolerate. But that ends today. Today, we raise the standard. Today, we draw the line. Today, we awaken the giant that's been sleeping inside. You want to change your life, then change your state. Everything begins with your state, your mental, emotional, and physical intensity. Because in a powerful state, you make powerful decisions. You show up differently. You walk into a room and the energy shifts. You speak and people lean in. You don't try to be confident. You are confident because you're tapped in. You're lit up. You're alive. When you're in your highest state, fear becomes fuel. Doubt becomes drive. Pain becomes purpose. But here's the catch. You can't wait for motivation to come knocking. Motivation is not something you get. It's something you generate. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, the more you train it, the stronger it gets. So how do we train it? You move, you breathe, you speak life into your goals. You stop repeating stories that keep you stuck. I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I always mess it up. And you start telling the truth. You are powerful beyond measure. You are not your past. You are not your mistakes. You are the author of your future, and today is page 1. But let me warn you, unleashing your power won't be comfortable. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. You can't grow where it's safe. You grow when it's hard, when it hurts, when everything inside you screams, I can't, and you rise up and say, I will. Every champion you admire was once broken. Every leader you respect was once lost. Every success story began in a chapter of pain, struggle, rejection, or fear. The difference is, they didn't stay there. You are not stuck. You're just scared to move, and that's okay. Fear is normal. Fear is human, but fear is also the signal that something matters. That something is calling you forward. Fear is not the enemy, staying the same is. So the question is, what do you want? Not what you think you can have. Not what your parents told you. Not what society expects. What do you want, really want? Because the moment you get honest about that, the moment you stop playing the someday game, your life will never be the same. Decide, right now, decide who you are. Decide what you stand for. Decide that your past does not define your future. Decide that from this moment on, your life is no longer ruled by fear or doubt or guilt, but by passion, purpose, and power. And I want you to know something deep in your soul. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to wait for the right time, the right people, or the right opportunity. You are the right person. This is the right time and opportunity. Opportunity shows up when you do, when you take action in spite of fear, when you show up not with perfection, but with intention, when you stop waiting for life to give you a break, and you break through. I know it's not going to be easy. I know there will be setbacks. I know the world will test you, but you didn't come here for easy. You came here to evolve, to push past the limits you once believed were unbreakable. You came here to rewrite your story not in pencil, but in fire. And every time you feel like quitting, remember, your breakthrough is always on the other side of your breakdown. So unleash it. Unleash the fire in your soul. Unleash the voice that's been silenced. Unleash the courage to rise again, no matter how many times you've fallen. Unleash the version of you that the world has yet to see. Unleash the power within, because once you do, nothing will ever be the same. Your past does not define your future, your decisions do. So many people walk through life carrying the weight of what once was. They hold on to guilt, shame, regret, or disappointment as if it's welded to their identity. But that's a lie we've been sold. The truth is, your history is not your destiny unless you choose to make it so. You are not the mistakes you've made, not the pain you've endured, not the failures you've faced. You are not limited by the version of you that didn't know better, couldn't do better, or was too scared to try. Your story isn't set in stone. It's still being written, and every single day, with every single decision, you hold the pen in your hand. The power to rewrite your narrative isn't something someone gives you. It's something you claim moment by moment, choice by choice. The world loves to remind you of who you were. People may define you by what you used to do, where you came from, how many times you fell short. But that doesn't matter. What matters is whether you buy into that version of yourself or whether you make the decision to redefine who you are right now, because change doesn't happen in the past. Transformation doesn't happen in memory. It happens in decision. It happens the second you stand up and say, "This is who I am now. This is what I believe. This is what I will no longer tolerate." And from that moment forward, life starts to shift. Not because the past changes, but because you change. It's not the pain of your past that's holding you back. It's your attachment to it. It's your belief that somehow, because things didn't work out before, they won't work out now. But success doesn't belong to those with perfect records. It belongs to those who refuse to let their past keep them small. Every breakthrough begins with a decision to rise, to recommit, to redirect your focus, your energy, your actions. The moment you stop arguing for your limitations, the moment you stop telling the story of why it didn't work, and start asking yourself what will work, that's when your power returns. You have a choice in every moment. You can choose to react like the version of you who lived through pain, or you can choose to respond like the version of you who is ready to rise. The gap between those two versions is just one decision wide. One decision to no longer let the past be an excuse. One decision to no longer let what you couldn't control become a reason to avoid what you can control. One decision to no longer ask, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" The difference between people who change the game and people who stay stuck in the same cycle is never luck, background, or timing. It's the quality of their decisions. It's how often they decide to act, to grow, to face fear instead of retreating into the familiar. It's how quickly they take ownership instead of waiting to be rescued. Every time you decide to rise above the noise, every time you choose courage over comfort, you shift the trajectory of your life. Because the future isn't waiting for the perfect moment or a clean slate, it's waiting for your decision. You already have everything you need inside you. Now act like it. We live in a world constantly trying to convince you that you're missing something. That you need another course, another approval, another achievement, another person to finally feel ready. But the truth is, you were born equipped. You were born with instincts, with fire, with dreams carved into your soul for a reason. You don't need more, you need to activate what's already within. That power you're searching for, it's not out there. It's buried beneath the layers of doubt, fear, hesitation, and noise that the world has stacked on top of you. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you are when you're not scared, not doubting, not shrinking. You've had moments where your strength showed up without warning. You've faced pain and still got back up. You've walked through storms you thought would break you and you're still standing. That wasn't luck. That wasn't chance. That was you, tapping into the part of you that doesn't care how hard it gets. That was your true nature rising, and that same power is still there, not gone, not lost, just waiting for you to stop pretending it doesn't exist. You were born with purpose. You were wired to create, to lead, to impact, to change your own life and influence others. But you can't activate what you continue to deny. You can't step into your power if you keep telling yourself you're not ready. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's the decision to act with what you have, where you are, and who you are today. It's not about being perfect, it's about being willing, willing to fall, willing to be seen, willing to trust that you can handle what's ahead. Every excuse you've ever made is built on the idea that something is missing. But when you realize that the answers, the strength, the resilience, and the clarity are already within you, the excuses lose their power. You stop chasing and start choosing. You stop waiting and start creating. You stop asking for permission and start moving as if it's already yours because deep down it is. The only thing stopping most people is the illusion of inadequacy, the false belief that they need to be more before they can start. But mastery is not a prerequisite, it's a result. And you don't get there by hesitating. You get there by showing up. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything. It comes from doing it scared and learning as you go. Every powerful person you've ever admired started exactly where you are, uncertain, uncomfortable, unqualified, but they decided to trust their inner fire more than their outer fear, and that decision changes everything. The world will always reflect back the energy you project. If you show up with doubt, you'll attract more reasons to doubt. If you show up with power, the world will bend in response. But first, you have to lead yourself. You have to trust that your voice matters. You have to believe that your ideas, your presence, your energy are enough to shift the room, because they are. And the moment you stop waiting to feel powerful and start acting powerfully, you'll begin to unlock everything that was already there. It's not about gaining something new. It's about removing the limits, peeling back the layers, turning the volume up on that inner knowing that's been whispering, you were made for more. Comfort is a cage. Growth lives in discomfort. Most people don't realize that the very thing they're seeking fulfillment, breakthrough, strength doesn't come from ease. It comes from resistance, from stretching, from facing the edge of what feels safe and choosing to lean in anyway. Comfort feels good, but it slowly steals your edge. It whispers lies that you're okay staying the same, that you'll try later, that what you have is enough. And over time, you stop growing, you stop reaching, you stop becoming, because the moment comfort becomes your priority, progress becomes optional, growth is not convenient, it doesn't show up when you're ready, when it feels easy, or when it fits into your schedule. Growth interrupts, it challenges, it disrupts patterns, it forces you to confront the parts of yourself that you'd rather ignore, the fears you haven't faced, the decisions you've delayed, the dreams you've buried beneath distraction. But that's exactly where the transformation happens, not in the moments where everything makes sense, but in the moments where nothing does and you keep going anyway. Discomfort is not your enemy, it's your compass. It shows you where the work is. It shows you where your limits are begging to be broken. It shows you what matters. The things that make you nervous, the things that make your heart race, the things that make you doubt those are the doors to the next level of your life. You just have to stop waiting for the fear to go away. It won't. You move forward with it, not in spite of it. You build the muscle of courage by lifting the weight of uncertainty. Everything you want, confidence, discipline, clarity, freedom, lives outside the walls of comfort. It's not found in routine, but in challenge. You don't become more by doing the same things every day. You grow by putting yourself in environments that force you to rise, that demand more from you than you've given before, that push you to act when your old self would have hesitated. Discomfort is the currency you pay for growth, and most people aren't willing to invest. But the few who are the ones who say yes to what scares them, the ones who lean into the stretch, the ones who use failure as feedback, they unlock something different. They move with a different level of certainty, not because they're never afraid, but because they've proven to themselves that they can move through it. Every uncomfortable decision becomes a vote for who you are becoming. Every time you do what's hard, you reinforce the belief that you are capable. Every time you stay in the arena instead of running back to comfort, you build an identity of strength. There will always be a reason to stay safe, to wait, to protect yourself from risk. But that protection is a prison in disguise. You can't become exceptional by staying hidden. You can't unlock your next level by holding on to who you've always been. You can't create something new from the same mindset that built the old. Growth is on the other side of discomfort because discomfort is the doorway to truth. It reveals what you believe, what you value, what you're willing to fight for. It strips away the noise and shows you what you're made of. Not when everything is easy, but when it's hard, when it's inconvenient, when it requires more than you thought you had, and you show up anyway. Fear is not a stop sign, it's a compass pointing toward your next breakthrough. Most people misunderstand fear. They see it as a warning, a signal to retreat, a reason to hesitate. But fear isn't there to stop you. It's there to alert you that you're standing at the edge of something meaningful. It shows up when you're about to grow, about to stretch, about to enter territory where the old version of you no longer fits. That tightness in your chest, the pounding in your heart, the voice whispering, "What if I fail?" It's not weakness, it's energy. It's power ready to be redirected. And once you stop running from fear and start listening to what it's actually telling you, everything begins to shift. Fear appears in front of your biggest dreams. It appears when you're getting closer to your truth. It doesn't come when you're doing the easy things. It comes when you're about to level up, when you're about to do something that requires courage, conviction, and commitment. The presence of fear doesn't mean you're not ready, it means the moment matters. It means there's something at stake, and anything worth doing will come with resistance. You just have to learn to walk with fear, not wait for it to disappear. You move forward not because the fear is gone, but because your vision is bigger than your doubt. The strongest people you know still feel fear. The difference is they've trained themselves to respond differently. They don't see fear as a dead end. They see it as a doorway. They recognize that fear is part of the process, not a flaw in the system. And every time you act in the presence of fear, you weaken its control over you. You rewire your brain, you reshape your identity, you stop living in reaction and start living in intention, because fear only grows in the dark. It feeds on avoidance. The longer you run, the bigger it gets. But when you face it, when you step into it, it loses its grip. You don't conquer fear by thinking your way around it. You conquer it by moving through it. Action is the antidote. The second you take a step, no matter how small, you start reclaiming your power. You start proving to yourself that you're not defined by the stories your fear wants you to believe. The story that you'll fail, that you'll be judged, that you're not enough, all of that begins to dissolve when you take the first step. Because the evidence starts to shift. You realize that fear was never trying to stop you, it was trying to wake you up. Fear also reveals what matters most. You don't fear the things that are irrelevant to you. You fear putting your heart into something that could fail. You fear the risk because you care. That's not weakness, that's passion. That's a signpost. When fear shows up, don't shut down, get curious. Ask yourself what's underneath it. Ask what it's trying to protect, and then decide whether that protection is still serving you or just keeping you stuck. Because fear will always be loud, but you get to choose what you listen to. You are not meant to live a life dictated by fear. You were built to face it, to learn from it, to rise because of it. Every major leap, every personal evolution, every breakthrough that shifted the direction of your life came after a moment where you could have let fear win, but you didn't. You stepped anyway, you spoke anyway, you showed up anyway, and that's where power lies, not in the absence of fear, but in your refusal to let it have the final word. The moment you decide, your destiny begins to change. There is a line that separates who you've been from who you're becoming, and that line is drawn the instant you make a real decision, not a wish, not a maybe, not a someday, a decision backed by action, by energy, by the refusal to go back. Most people don't change because they never truly decide. They entertain the idea, they talk about it, they hope for it. But they never cross that internal threshold that says, I'm done waiting, I'm done hoping, I'm now doing. And that is where everything shifts, not outside, but within. A decision is a commitment. It's the moment when you close the back door. Burn the boats, step into the fire of who you must become in order to create what you've never had. Real decisions carry weight, they break patterns, they kill excuses, they call for a higher version of you to show up. Because when you truly decide, you cut off the possibility of going back, you remove the option of playing small, you stop negotiating with fear and start aligning with purpose. It doesn't mean you won't face resistance. It means you've decided resistance will not stop you. It means the outcome has become non-negotiable. The details might shift, the path might twist, but the direction is set. That is power, that is clarity. And clarity breeds momentum. Every breakthrough in your life will begin with a decision to let go of what no longer serves you, a decision to step into something you're not yet sure you can handle, a decision to say yes to the unknown, to say no to mediocrity, to stop settling for what's comfortable. The gap between where you are and where you want to be is not more time, more resources, more luck. It's one decision made with absolute certainty. One moment where you stop waiting to feel ready and declare that you already are. Because the truth is, most people don't lack potential, they lack commitment, and commitment is born in decision. Think back to the moments that changed your life. They weren't random. They were the result of a decision, a moment when you said enough, a moment when you chose courage over comfort, a moment when you stopped blaming, stopped hiding, stopped delaying. Those moments may have been quiet, but they carried power. Because when you decide with your full being, the world responds. People, opportunities, ideas, and energy start to align, not because it's magic, but because you're finally moving with intention. You're no longer sending mixed signals. You're no longer half in, you're congruent, and that congruence has force. There's a reason the word decide comes from the Latin root that means to cut off. When you decide, you eliminate distractions. You stop entertaining other outcomes. You bring your focus, your heart, your mind, your energy into full alignment. That level of focus becomes unstoppable. Most people live in hesitation, in indecision, in analysis, but results don't live there. Results come to the ones who commit, who trust themselves enough to take the leap, who understand that clarity follows action, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel ready, you move and let readiness catch up. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of a decision you haven't made yet. That version is bolder, freer, more aligned, more fulfilled. But you don't meet that version through hoping, wishing, or waiting. You meet them when you decide, when you look at the life you want and say, I will no longer accept anything less. When you stop flirting with potential and start embodying it. When you wake up and choose to take the wheel instead of riding in the passenger seat of your own life.